Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue, and we're going to be talking about dismissive, avoidant style, and the Enneagram. Now, where's this been all these years? Other people just know about these things, these attachment styles, and I didn't really know about them. Maybe my head's been under a rock or something, but for example, I asked my wife and daughters, and they were like, yeah, Dad, of course. I have a counseling degree. Of course I know about this. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just missed it. I haven't put any time in researching this. But so I had a client the other day, and they were talking about dismissive avoidant attachment and their marriage. And so I had to do a little research on this. And what I discovered is there's actually 4 of these attachment styles. Now, you may know all of this. You probably do. You guys are really smart. But I had to go, find this stuff out. And then, of course, I'm thinking about the Enneagram and Enneagram types, and I'm thinking, how does this relate to the Enneagram? So we're going to jump into this, but before we get started, just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. What do? I do Enneagram coaching. It's life coaching, but it's based on the Enneagram. You guys know I love the Enneagram, and you do too. That's why you're watching this video. And the Enneagram is a great tool to help us to see, what health and balance might look like for us and how to have healthier relationships. And let's face it, life is hard, it's challenging, and we need all the help we can get. And sometimes you need some encouragement, and I'm here. I'm here to help in any way I can. So reach out to me. I have a lot of free resources on my website as well, and then there's a lot of classes. I do live classes, and there's classes that are recorded on demand. All of that is there because we're in a little laboratory of self-help, and we just want to make the world a better place. So let's dive into this topic today, dismissive attachment. Let's see. It's not a personality disorder. Let's start there. I looked it up, and there are personality disorders, and there's one that's close to this. It's like dismissive avoidant or something like that. But this is not a personality. These are not personality disorders. These were first developed by a man named John Bowlby. Maybe I'm not pronouncing that right. And then further elaborated by a Mary Ainsworth, who created an assessment called Strange Situation. And essentially there's 4 of these attachment styles. And the idea is these attachment styles developed when we were kids because of the way our families took care of us or didn't take care of us, because they were reliable caregivers or they weren't reliable caregivers. And all of that makes sense. But, I think that somehow there's got to be some Enneagram stuff going on too, because that's the lens that I see everything with. Maybe there is, maybe there's not, but that's the lens I see everything with. So I've got some notes here. Not too much, but a few pages of notes. Actually, I threw away about 5 other pages of notes because it would have been too much. But let's look at the 4 different attachment styles real quick. And then we're going to spend some time talking about, which Enneagram types might show up with those attachment styles, or more likely. And then we'll talk about dismissive avoidant. We'll spend our time on that one, and then maybe we'll do some videos on the other ones too. So just a quick, preview of the 4 different attachment styles. There's the secure attachment style, which is the one I guess all of us wish we were. All of us wish we were secure attachment people. And secure attachment means this person has a very positive view of themselves and a positive view of relationships. They're comfortable with intimacy, and on the other hand, they're comfortable with independence. So they have this need to connect, but they also have this need to be on their own, stand out, and be different and exceptional. And they balance these two things well. And they grew up feeling very confident that their caregivers would be responsive to their needs, leading them to trust themselves and others. So, I guess that one is the gold standard. That's the one we all would aspire to or hope to be. And then there's the rest of us here. And here's number 2, the anxious preoccupied attachment, also known as anxious attachment. And it says people that, are anxious attachment or anxious preoccupied seek high levels of intimacy and approval and responsiveness from their partners, but fear that they are less valued by their partner. So they have a positive view of others, but maybe a little bit of a negative view about themselves, kind of feeling, unworthy of love or having problems with worth and value. Wow, that sounds like an Enneagram thing, doesn't it? And it can stem from maybe inconsistent caregiving where the child couldn't reliably predict, what kind of emotional support they would have. The third one is the one we want to spend time talking about today, dismissive avoidant. And that is these people who are dismissive avoidants tend to maintain emotional distance from others, valuing their own independence and seeing themselves very positively, but maybe looking at others kind of skeptically. And they deny their need for close relationships, wanting to think of themselves as independent and self-sufficient. And so that's the one we're going to look at a little bit more detail today. And then the last one is fearful avoidant attachment, or sometimes known as disorganized attachment. And these people have a desire for closeness, but have a fear of being hurt, and they have mixed feelings about close relationships, and desire, but also fear emotional connection. And so, they're independent, but they're fearful that other people are going to put too many demands on them, and they have confusion about how to interact. Okay, so anyway, what Enneagram types would go with these? Well, the reality is any Enneagram type could theoretically have any one of these attachment styles. So yes, you could be a 1 and have secure attachment. You could be a 2 with secure attachment. You could be a 3 with secure. So any one of these, but when I did a little research and a little bit of thinking about this, with secure attachments, you might see 2s and 9s and 1s maybe being a little more secure in their attachments. Now, not necessarily true, but think 2s really value that connection and they want to have that. 1s, it's the right thing to do and it's the right way to interact, and 9s, balancing harmony and avoiding conflict. But every one of us could be a secure attachment type. And then the anxious, preoccupied attachment type, I could also think maybe 2s and 6s. So 2s and 6s, anxious, 2s longing to be loved but struggling with worth and value and fear of rejection. 6s, just anxiety and desiring loyalty and seeking reassurance and approval. And then dismissive avoidant, well, I think of 5s. Independent, I'm fine, I don't need relationships, I don't need anything. 3s, so focused on their work or their self-improvement that maybe, emotions and emotional connection not available for that. Maybe hurt 6s could be a little dismissive avoidant, like they're never going to get to me again, I'm fine, I don't need anything, I'm good. So that longing for support could be shut down, and you could become a guardian against even letting other people in because they're not going to get me this time, they're not going to hurt me this time. Dismissive avoidant, and maybe even 8s. I'm good. I don't need anything. I'm fine. And then fearful avoidant, I would say probably type 4s and type 8s. 4s with their intense focus on identity and feeling misunderstood. They may desire closeness while fearing rejection. So think of that 4, sitting in the back of the room, not wanting to connect to anybody, and pushing people away before they, can even let them in because they're fearful and avoidant, and so pushing people away. And 8s who fear vulnerability and value strength, and sometimes aggression, may desire deep connections but retreat out of fear of betrayal or appearing weak and needy. So it's hard to say. From what I'm gathering so far, my opinion at this point would be any Enneagram type could have any one of these attachment styles. And maybe it does depend a little bit on how we were raised and what kind of environments we came from. I would love you guys to put some comments in. What do you think? Do you have one of these attachment styles? Are you secure? Are you anxious, preoccupied, or dismissive avoidant, or fearful avoidant? Do you identify with any of these? Do you think the Enneagram is connected to any of this? Do you think the Enneagram types tend to lean into these groups a little bit? It's just stuff I'm questioning right now. I don't have the answers. I'm just questioning this and thinking it through. Now let's take some time and spend some time on this dismissive avoidant attachment style. So what is this dismissive avoidant? And again, I think of probably I'm thinking of 5s and 3s and maybe some 8s, but definitely some hurt 6s or some hurt 2s even. And it could be anybody. It really could be anybody. But let's unpack this one a little bit and talk about it. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that I put down that are characteristic of people who are dismissive avoidant. Can I do this without my glasses? Let's see. No, I probably better do my glasses. So number 1, let me put numbers on this. Number 1, valuing independence. Number 1, valuing independence. Individuals with dismissive avoidant attachment style place a high premium on their independence and their self-reliance. Now, could 1s be like that? Sure. Yeah, 1s could be like that. I think 5s, definitely. 8s, definitely. 7s, perhaps. But a high value on independence and self-reliance. I'm good. I'm fine. And this is going to look very sometimes guarded to other people. Like, think the opposite of open. Before we jump into this, one of the needs that we all have in a relationship, like an intimate relationship, is we all have this need for honesty and openness. Honesty, that seems, rather self-explanatory. But openness, people can be honest without being open. Open is like really letting people in. Letting people in, letting people, lowering your drawbridge and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and letting people in, letting them know what you think, letting them know how you feel, sharing what's going on in your mind and sharing what's going on in your heart. And really that is like at the heart of intimacy. And, one of the other needs that we all have is for conversational companion. You could say communication, but we all have this need to be able to have conversations with the person we love that are engaging and fulfilling and meaningful. And, people who have dismissive avoidant attachment style may have a real hard time letting down their guard. So what's the opposite of openness is going to be guarded. And, one of the failed strategies in marriage when a person is not meeting your needs, or when you're not getting along so well, one of the failed strategies that a couple might employ in order to sort of survive in their troubled marriage is independent behavior. Just kind of like an acceptance that like, okay, well, you're a different person, you're going to do your thing and I'm going to do my thing. And we'll just meet in the evenings, and maybe eat together or walk together, but we're really not open, we're really not sharing. And, independent behavior, living like roommates, that will work for a while. It will. I mean, you can get along that way. But meanwhile, like the marriage is dying. It's a failed strategy, and ultimately it's going to just lead to more resentment, more bitterness, more poison in the marriage. And it's going to feel ultimately awful. We long for this connection, and so many couples don't have it. And I feel awful. It makes me feel sad. So many couples that I interact with, and maybe you right now, maybe you're watching this and you're like, gosh, he's talking about me or he's talking about us. And just realize it doesn't have to stay like this. Like, it could be really awful right now and painful. It's nothing more painful than living in a marriage that's not loving and not meeting your needs, and you guys aren't turned toward each other. You're kind of turned against each other. Sometimes the people that you have the most trouble loving are the people that are closest to you. And when that's the case, I mean, it feels awful. Like there's a gray cloud over everything. And that's just so sad. It's so disheartening. And I appreciate that you're doing the work right now to try to rebuild and try to improve your life and your marriage. And it just makes sense. Like your marriage or your relationship is so tied to your overall well-being and happiness in life. It just makes sense to do what it takes to try to make this marriage, these relationships improve and better so that you can have the most fulfilled, the happiest life possible. Okay, so valuing their independence. Of course, who values their independence? 5s, 8s, maybe 6s if they are, if they've gotten kind of hard and calloused. And anybody could become like this. Anybody could become like this. And independence is a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing, but it needs to be balanced, right? So you need to be balanced. On the one hand, I'm secure, I'm reliant, I'm self-reliant, I'm capable, I'm able, I'm independent, I'm strong, I'm tough. But then on the other hand, there needs to be this willingness to engage and connect, to let your guard down, to be open, to be connected, to build friendships, to let yourself be foolish. all of these things are important too in a healthy relationship. And maybe you've gotten a little lopsided. And, fair enough. Maybe the people that you've had in your life that, should have been there for you really weren't reliable. And so you had to become hard and calloused, and that's very understandable. But think of it like this. There may be people right now in your life that really do want to break beneath that shell and love you, but you're keeping them away because of your fear of being hurt. It's not because you don't really want connection, but maybe because you fear that if you were to open up and let them in, and then they were to prove to be like everybody else in your life, or they were to hurt you or to withdraw from you, that would be so painful. I'll just go ahead and put up the wall, put up the barrier, and live, as C.S. Lewis would say, and live in the Shadowlands. And that's, it's so painful to confront these things head on, but so necessary. So I don't need others to fulfill my emotional needs. I'll just shut down those needs. I'm fine. I'm good. Man, you guys can't believe how many couples I talk to where one of the spouses is kind of resorted to this, and the other one is just suffering. The one that's suffering is usually the one that reaches out to me. They're like, Tom, what do I do? Like, I just can't break through. The other person just shrugs their shoulders and, it's not my problem. Okay, number 2, avoiding emotional closeness. They tend to keep emotional distance from others, even in close relationships, to protect themselves. So again, it's a self-protective strategy from vulnerability and the potential rejection or abandonment. I mean, let's face it. Being rejected feels awful. I mean, even if you don't want to go to the dance, it's nice to get invited, right? But being rejected by somebody, that just feels awful. I mean, it goes back to our core fears. Like, remember when you were a teenager in middle school and you finally got the courage to walk up to that special someone and ask them, if you like me, check yes or check no. Can you imagine getting the note back? No, check no, don't like you. I mean, that's going to feel awful. I mean, not getting picked, not being wanted, not being, cared for, that's core stuff. That's terrible. It feels awful. And of course, one way to protect ourselves from that awful feeling is to build this wall or this shell around us. We may not even realize we're doing it, to just kind of keep people at a distance. Well, if you're going to keep people at a distance, realize this: your needs don't go away just because you don't let people in to meet those needs. So you're going to develop this story about yourself that I'm good, I'm fine, I don't need people. Yet, I mean, look at the Bible. Genesis, it's not good for man to be alone. And so God created a helper. And just think about, it's not good for you to be alone. Now, you may really recharge in those alone times, and you may feel very comfortable in those alone times, but you're not designed to just exist by yourself. In fact, I was just watching a ghost show the other day, and they were in a penitentiary, they were in a closed jail, and they had these, cells where you throw criminals that just won't behave even in jail into these solitary confinements. And the lady on the tour was telling the ghost hunters that there were people that were locked in these confinement cells, these prisons, in these solitary confinements for more than a year. She said some of them committed suicide, and some of them, went crazy, because we're not good at just keeping everybody out and being all sufficient in ourselves. We're not sufficient in ourselves. We need each other. And you need people in your life too. And, people are going to let you down. They just are. And they're not always going to respond to you the way you would like. And they're not always going to prove to be 100% reliable. And you're not 100% reliable. But there are people out there that would love to connect with you. All right, so avoiding emotional closeness, keeping your emotional distance. So being friendly but not having friends. There's a difference between being friendly and having friends. Being open to friendliness Could be a camouflage to move people away. Oh yeah, how you doing? Great. Oh yeah, okay, bye. See you later. It could be a camouflage to keep people from getting beneath the surface and really knowing you. Number 3, minimizing the importance of relationships. So generally just downplaying relationships. Like, I just don't need all that. I ain't got time for all that. Oh my gosh. Downplaying that and portraying themselves as not really needing close personal ties. Like, I'm done with that. I'm over that. Number 4, difficulty with vulnerability. Okay, what do you think of? You think of 8s, right? I do. You can't help but think of 8s. They often have difficulty opening up and expressing their emotions, and vulnerability is seen as a weakness. And 8s, they don't want to come across as weak. And probably a lot of 6s, they're going to want to come across as weak and needing other people. And so this projection of strength and power, I'm a lone ranger, I don't need anybody else. So this difficulty with vulnerability. So they avoid showing it to prevent perceived threats to their independence. All right, number 5. I got to write my numbers down Okay, number 5, self-sufficiency. I'm an island unto myself. I'm good. I don't need anybody else. They pride themselves on their ability to handle life's challenges alone. 8s, 3s, 5s, maybe some 1s, maybe some 9-wing 8s, I don't know. Without needing support from others. 6s need support from others. That's one of their core fears, is of being without support, assurance, and guidance. But you can see how they could get turned, because maybe they were hurt, or maybe they were abused, or maybe they were, let down. They could just get turned against this. And 2s as well could maybe become calloused here. And the spirit just closes. Not open, closed. Okay? I don't need others. This self-sufficiency is a coping mechanism developed from early experiences where emotional needs were not adequately met by caregivers. Look, it doesn't mean you don't have emotional needs. It means that you have them, and it's so scary that other people won't meet them, or that they will take advantage of that neediness, that you just guard it and protect it away from people who really could maybe come in and connect with you and meet those needs. Why are you doing this video, Tom? Because ultimately I care about you, and I care about your happiness, I care about your life, and it just ends up kind of like a very miserly, sad, Ebenezer Scrooge kind of existence. You remember on the Christmas Carol, right? Ebenezer Scrooge is very self-reliant. He doesn't need other people, but he's very guarded and closed and won't let himself open up to love anybody and won't let anybody love him. And there's people around him who are trying to break through that wall, and he's just annoyed at them. He's just dismissive of them, dismissive, avoidant of them. Man, I get chills just thinking about this. And what a great night it is when he gets shaken by those ghosts, and he's stirred out of his slumber. And he wakes up to this reality, my time is running out and people matter. And what I do and how I open up or connect with people, that's what it's all about. That's what this is all about. And he's a changed person from that moment on. And you can be too. But you're going to have to probably face some of these fears that are deep down, maybe tied to your personality, or maybe as a result of how you were brought up, or your first marriage, or your terrible breakup, or that violent moment when your trust was broken. This is hard work. It is hard work. But so worth it. Okay, self-sufficiency. Number 6, dismissal of emotional needs. I'm good. I don't need anything. They may deny their need for intimacy and dismiss the significance of emotions, both their own and their partners. I don't know what to tell you. You just need to get tough. I can't be babysitting you all day. And so dismissive of your own emotional needs. But then maybe if you acknowledge the emotional needs of your partner, then you would just be placating and encouraging their weakness and their deficiency. I'm not going to do that. You need to get stronger. You need to be able to take care of yourself. It sounds like you have a problem. That is so unloving. It's just not loving. Look, this is the way my brain works. All of us go into marriage with some basic needs and expectations. No one person can meet all those needs. That's why you need community around you. It's why you need friends and family. It's why you need God, because not one person can meet all those needs. But the person that you're marrying, your partner, is basically signing up to care about your needs. They're saying, look, I'm going to show love to you no matter what. And love is taking care of a person. Love is a verb. Love is demonstrated. And love means I need to know what you need and then do my best to try to take care of those needs. And we're going to do this together. I'll take care of you, you take care of me, and then we'll both, hopefully, Lord willing, take care of a family. To just shut that down and say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Look how you've just opened this door to all kinds of bitterness and resentment and pain in your marriage. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I just never grew up affectionate, so I don't need a lot of affection, so I don't know what to tell you. I just grew up, I don't need a lot of intimacy and closeness, or I'm not a sexual person, or I'm just not. And so you just decide, I don't know what to tell you, spouse. You're just going to have to take care of yourself. And yikes. Okay. So part of what, we're saying here is in a committed relationship, whether it's married or whether you guys are just dating or whatever it is, if you're committed to each other in this relationship, is you're signing up to say, look, I'm going to try to meet your needs. Whether that's conversation, whether that's affection, whether that's admiration and appreciation, whatever it is, or financial stability, I'm signing up to do my part to demonstrate love to you by caring for your needs. If you're not caring for your partner's needs, then what is your marriage? Like, what is it you signed up to do? Just be in each other's space? It's very painful to have somebody in your space who doesn't care about you. Imagine walking past a plant and never watering it. What's going to happen to the plant? The plant's going to die. What is it like having a marriage, a partner that you never invest in, never take care of, and never meet their needs? What's going to happen to that marriage? And don't be surprised when it dies. It's very predictable what's going to happen. Okay, number 7, viewing close relationships as confining. Well, 7s could be, Enneagram type 7s could be a little bit like this. Like this underlying belief that relationships are like an entrapment, and this could cause people to resist. And so 5s and 7s, 8s, they don't want to be confined by this relationship. And I'll say it again, somebody who was a 5 told me that when a 5 decides to marry you, they're basically saying out loud that I love you so much that this relationship is worth the pain and trouble that being in a relationship will cause me. And that's kind of what this point is all about, is relationships are going to slow me down, or, having to take care of your needs. Look, I need you to take care of my needs. I need a lot of nurturing, but I'm not available to take care of you. And then number 8, a preference for superficial interactions. Ooh, 7s, 3s, 9s maybe. They may prefer casual and superficial interactions over deep and meaningful connections, these that don't require a lot of emotional investment or vulnerability. And so you may have a preference, if you're avoidant dismissive attachment or dismissive avoidant attachment, for valuing independence, avoiding emotional closeness, minimizing the importance of relationships, difficulty with vulnerability, self-sufficiency, dismissal of emotional needs, viewing close relationships as confining, and a preference for superficial interactions. Well, the good news is when we recognize this about ourselves or our partner or our marriage, this might be the beginning of a turning point. If we don't know what our diseases are, then how will we ever realize that we need to reach out for a remedy? And so I don't think this is a death sentence, for your marriage. I don't think it's a death sentence for you being able to connect with others. But we do have some work to do. And I hope that you will put in that work and that effort, because it's so worth it. It's so worth it to open yourself up to love and to be loved, to care for others and to be cared for by others. Man, that's what the heart longs for. All right, guys, we're on this journey together. We're going to figure it out together. We're always learning and always growing. And thank you for joining me on this journey. And as always, be present to life. I'll see you next time.